Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan talking about city issues today. And got a lot to talk about today. In fact, wrapped up another Clean City Week, Bob.
We did. We did. Jason Moore and crew did another phenomenal job. They did a really great job. And right before we came in, Jason sent me a text. It looks like we picked up, we had 1,206 registrations. And, the registrations didn't last Friday, so we could organize for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, in case something slipped between the cracks, they came out as well. I think it went really well. I think, we've been at this for at least 25 years?
We're trying to remember what year this was, but it's been going on
probably
as
more.
long as we can remember.
That's right, probably more.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's maybe a little disheartening is, we put out it's 4 big, large items, and again this year we ended up having a number of people that put out trash, and I'm sure they were disappointed that it didn't get picked up, but that's not what the big city cleanup is for. Right. And that's also why we coordinated the days with your trash days for the most part. So like they did ours on Wednesday, and the big pickup was on Wednesday. So, trash goes in the trash can. Big items like appliances, or maybe you took out a fiberglass shower and cut it up and put that out because you replaced it, or carpet, or those type of things. And not your ordinary trash and boxes and those type of things.
Yeah. Jason said that's all done with about 9 crew members, too, and equipment, which is pretty amazing when you have to canvass that much area of a city over a 3-day period. That's
it is.
A lot of work.
And I think, it's if you watch them, they know what they're doing. Yeah. Between the trucks and the front end loader, they make short order of that stuff. And they do a great job. Really appreciate that. I don't know how many communities have that, but, I know that really helps with dumping things off in ditches and those type of places, just because, some people, it's just, that's how they get rid of the stuff, and now we give them that opportunity once a year to do that. And I think we had, the typical, I would say what one man's junk is another man's treasure, where some things got picked up. And I think, a lot of the metals that get put out, it depends on what the metal price is.
Yeah, well, they can recycle it, and it's worth your time to
That's
do
right.
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I hadn't heard. I did drive by there, the landfill compost site where mattresses are dropped off. I wasn't sure how that went this year. Didn't really get a good look at that time because it was pretty early in the morning. But usually that, it's kind of a nice addition.
It's a nice addition, and I know it was busy. Don't have a count on mattresses yet, but I can tell you that we went through a number of containers full of mattresses. I was actually out there and dumping off my lawn grass, and I think I saw 3 vehicles out there with a number of mattresses that they were getting rid of.
Yeah. I think you mentioned when you got the figures from Jason this morning, this was the largest registration for about, 5 years?
For about 5 years, since 2020.
Yeah.
And in 2020, they had 1,249. So this was about within 40 of that. Last year, he said they had 1,136. So
up about 60, 70 registrations this year then.
Right.
So that worked out pretty well, just making sure you do it all online rather than maybe having people call in. And I don't know if maybe some people still called because they're not, maybe didn't have access to computer or whatever.
Right. It works really, really well because the software then also coordinates with the iPads. And so they have the iPads and technology sitting there right in the truck, and they know right where to go. I'm sure some people called in, and then we'll just write a ticket and put that in the software as well, just so we don't miss anybody.
Well, Jason usually gives an entire wrap-up to the Board of Public Works at some time later on down the road. Sometimes includes a few pictures about here's how to do it and here's how not to do it. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
I think we'll probably have that. And like I said, I don't know who started the program, but as we, evaluate it every year, we say, well, we're going to keep doing it because it just pays benefits to trying to keep Beatrice beautiful.
Seems like, if I'm remembering right, the cost is usually somewhere around, $13,000, $15,000, somewhere in there to do it each year when you count everything, the fuel, the labor, and all that. So, which really in a town of 12,500 gives people a chance to get rid of items. That's a pretty good price.
It's well worth the effort.
Okay. One thing, as I was going out there, taking a look at the compost site and the mattress drop-off place, I drove by of course, it's right across the road, the new landfill construction going on. Good weather has really helped to move that along. It just between the two times I went out there, which was separated by about a month and a half, I think, quite a bit of work's gotten done, seems like.
Yes, they have made great progress. I think the weather's been really, really good for them. Mm-hmm. We got a little bit of rain last night. I don't know if they're working or not, but one of the things that they like is to have a little bit of moisture in that dirt to help form things. And I think things have been going right along. I think the landfill side of it is probably on schedule or maybe a little ahead of schedule. Where the scales are going to go and the maintenance house and where you go in and pay and those type of things, I think is pretty much on track for our November date.
So even though there's good weather, still kind of sticking with the fall date.
I think so. Yeah. I think that's where we're at. At the earliest, you might see maybe the end of October, but I think they're still pretty much on track.
All right. Board of Public Works meeting was held yesterday. I missed it. I was not. Had other things to do, but I thought I'd have the mayor fill me in on a few of the things here today. JEO, a consultant the city's worked with on several occasions for things, recommended an agreement with them for work regarding the Heritage Heights Corral Crossing developments, the old school sites.
Correct.
What's that all about? Is that just sort of supervision, overseeing the work, or how's that?
That will be the supervision of overseeing the work for the sewer and the water, not the water, the sewer and the grading and the pavement, the roads.
Okay.
Right. When you think about how things have changed, and I've kind of talked about this before, there's just a number of steps that we have to make sure as far as compaction and testing and the concrete testing to make sure that the roads we put in are top quality roads. The underneath the roads, the support there and the infrastructure is there, and the sewer's done right. Mm-hmm. And so they will be our eyes and ears on that project, as well as our guys. I know our guys will take a look at that as well. Mm-hmm. When you think about all the projects that we have to do, we also have to, we're doing mill and overlay, we're doing concrete projects, we're doing a number of other projects, and we only have one city engineer. Yeah. And some of the special testing that we do, or they do for those tests, for instance, Terracom comes down and takes core samples and those type of things. Number one, we just don't have enough staff to do that ourselves. Number two, it's kind of that time of the year where you do that for 6 months. And so what do you do with an individual even if you had them for 6 months? Mm-hmm. And number three, there's a lot of specialized equipment. Yeah. And so this really helps us maximize our time and maximize our dollars.
I think there was also on the agenda contractor selection on both sides.
There was.
Well. Yeah, so.
There was. For the sewer and the grading and the roads, we had 8 bidders, which was good. We had a lot of interest. We did them separately so that you had Corral Crossing bids and then you also had Heritage Heights bids. In this case, Van Kirk Brothers, who's done that type of work around the state of Nebraska, not sure where they're out of.
Can't remember.
Might be even Sutton. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that one. They were actually low bid on both. Mm-hmm. I think the bid was like $979,000 for Corral Crossing and was about $1.3 million for Heritage Heights. Mm-hmm. So. You never know how bids are, and I did go to that bid opening and watch. And after everybody left and the bids were opened, our JEO did the plat and the design. Mm-hmm. They also do an estimate on what they felt like the project would be, and we're a little bit under what their estimate was. So. Yeah. we're always happy when we're a little bit under rather than over.
Yeah. And for those who don't remember about the names, Heritage Heights is the former Lincoln School property.
Yes.
Corral Crossing is the former Paddock Lane School
Right.
crossing. And the Lincoln one's pretty much level dirt now. That's pretty much done for the most part. I had not driven by. Have they moved over and started the demolition on Paddock Lane site?
I would guess so.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
I've been by lately.
Yeah, Lincoln site is cleared off, looks good, ready to go. I think the contractors were going to move in and start right around that early June, unless maybe they get a little free time. And since that one's open, they could actually start ahead of time if that's what they so desire, and we wouldn't mind that a bit.
All right. Also on the agenda of the Board of Public Works yesterday, Highway Allocation Fund bonds up to $2.25 million. That's taking your gas tax or your budget allocation from state and federal,
Yep.
and then using that to have a bond issue, I guess.
And that will pay for the almost
$2.25 million or up
two
to
$2.25 million for the Heritage Heights and for Corral Crossing.
Yeah. You don't really in the past. The city doesn't have a lot of debt in terms of but there comes a time when you got so much work going on, you can't really field it entirely out of your budget without doing some financing.
That is correct. We've had a couple of bonds. Certainly you can't build a new landfill without a bond. And this, we know that in the case of both of the two schools trying to build the housing, those will recoup some of those costs. But we also know that costs continue to go up, and so it's a way that we believe that we're going to be ahead of the game by getting it all done now.
Yeah. Usually at BPW meetings, you go around the room and the department heads kind of give an update on projects and things like that. Anything stand out or you remember about that, or is it just kind of the normal things are just going on through spring here?
Kind of the normal things during the spring, but it's amazing how much work gets done. I was thinking for the electrical company or electrical department, one of the things that was said, I think they finished a tie line, which I think is where they connect two of the major feeders together, and that's been updated. And so, there's a lot of things that happen from March till about October or November, and all the departments trying to make sure that we have our infrastructure in place of where it needs to be. What is it? One of our clean out station number 6, which is by
Lift station.
Yeah, I know there's some work going on there.
I see.
There's just a lot of things going on. We're taking a look at how do we upgrade our WPC plant, and so they keep busy.
Yeah. A lot of things that go maybe unseen by the public
does.
to certain, but there's a lot of, don't just think nobody's doing anything. They're doing a lot of stuff out there.
They're getting a lot accomplished. They are very busy. And then, the other thing that we've got is mowing. Mowing's kicking in. We've got our summer help starting to line up as people come back from college. And I know that on the way out of town to the north, I know that they're trying to get a little more pre-emergent down to take care of the dandelion population that happens to grow. And then I also know people might notice that by Zollner Ford, they've started a project there to help the drainage in that ditch.
I see. Okay. It's amazing what a little rain will do for grass in city parks. It starts coming up fast. So,
yes, it does.
Mowers going full bore all the time.
That's right. Yeah. I think they start on Monday with a place, and by Friday they're done, so they can start again on Monday.
On Monday, yeah. We're with Mayor Bob Morgan today on Ask the Mayor, and we'll have more in a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan. Coming up on, I think it's Saturday, there's a session on floodplain mapping at Beatrice High School, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. I think it's one of those, more like an open house event. It's not a formal presentation.
Correct. It's an open house.
What basically, is that just sort of an update about where the borders would be going? Or
Correct. Okay. Correct. I think the NRD has a part of it, and I think it's mapping. I don't know how often they do that, but I know that must be time.
Yeah. Does it affect kind of, I know there's rules in the city, well, there's federal rules too. You can't build in a floodplain.
Correct.
Without elevating something. I think that's in the flood fringe. And long ago, there was a big program in Beatrice to clear out flood damaged or prone properties and turned it into parkland, basically.
Right.
Do you anticipate any changes that might affect you locally in terms of where things can be built or not built?
You know, my answer was I don't think it's going to affect a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I think that the city's been proactive over the years, and I think we'll probably remain in a good spot. I think if there's any troubled spots that we have, we actually did the study with Tributary 44 and that spot through Belvedere. I think we know about those spots. But I think it's also good to also double check to see because, channels and water does move.
Yeah. Erosion over many years, whenever it floods in town.
Right.
First spots we usually see is by Center Street down there and then into Chautauqua Park, but
right.
Things have probably changed a little bit.
I think so, and I think also there's been some measures to help water get off the roads. So we're hoping, we haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had one of those close calls for floods for a while, and hopefully we don't.
Yeah. Again, that session is at the Beatrice High School, Saturday from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Well, congratulations to the local economic developer who's been named by Governor Jim Pillen to the Nebraska Tourism Commission. Kind of nice feather in the cap related to economic development.
Absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations to Rachel. That's a great appointment. I'm sure she'll do a great job.
Mm-hmm. The commission, that is one of those agencies where the governor makes the appointment, but the legislature has to sign off on it
Correct.
too, or confirm or affirm the appointment. So,
right.
Congratulations to her.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Any kind of update regarding, and I get asked about this once in a while, since the protective fence is up along South 6th, there are people saying, hey, when's the rest of the building going to come down, Dempster there? And you usually say, well, not so fast. It'll take a while. But anything new regarding that site ever since the fire had occurred?
Nothing that you will see. Mm-hmm. Now it's a matter of, taking a look at our plan and seeing what adjustments, if any, we can make to try to get things cleaned up a little quicker. I think right now we're trying to get some maybe solid bids on what it would take to get all the asbestos out. We're hoping that maybe it comes a little better than what the projected estimate was a couple of years ago. I think the other thing that they're trying to do is, we're still trying to apply for grants. I mean, it's hard. One of the things, there's not a lot of grant money for taking buildings down. Yeah. There's grant money to put buildings up, but to demolish buildings, the grants are pretty few and far between. So I think, and I will back up and say, we still have one parcel we don't own. That one doesn't affect the two buildings. We now own all of the building property, but there's space in the back that we don't own. So that's going to come up for a tax sale, I believe, in October or November of 2025.
I see.
So by the end of the year, we'll own everything. And we will continue to try to put a plan together to get it down as quickly as possible, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. The not the part that burned and has been kind of demolished there, but do you anticipate any other areas on the property where there is a building actually will come down this year, or maybe cleared out an area of trees or things like that?
One of those things we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure what we'll do, but that'll be part of the plan. Yeah. We thought we kind of had a plan, and now we're
adjusting.
We're adjusting, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's an eyesore. As I said before on the radio, the broken windows look better than what we got now. And we're trying to figure out how we can at least make it look a little better than what it does right now.
I had not heard, but is there still a trouble with trespassing there at all? I know police have encountered some occasions in the past where somebody is trying to get onto the site and take whatever is left over, and I imagine it's pretty much picked through as far as things that were there, but have there been any instances that you know of where that's still been a problem?
Not lately, no.
Okay.
I think we've done a little better job, or we got it fenced off pretty well. which isn't attractive either. But I think for the most part, we've tried to do a good job of, ending squatters. Not saying it's not going to happen, but we do our best.
Yeah. Before we take a break here, I wanted to ask you this. We're in an era at the federal level of major budget reductions, staff reductions, in some cases entire departments or divisions of departments going away. How concerned are you, if at all, that might affect maybe some of the federal support you could get through EPA in order to complete this project? Because it's a multi-year thing to get rid of it, and I don't think anybody's really looking for further delays if they can avoid them. Are you concerned at all? Have you heard anything as to whether or not it might affect this project?
No, we have not heard anything at all. The big raise grant was one of the things that we had a little bit of concern about, but it didn't have, it's still solid. We're anticipating that contract getting signed here, hopefully in the next. They said it'd be 337 days, so we're kind of counting the clock. We're getting pretty close to that time frame. But right now, we don't see a lot of issues. We've seen a couple of things that have slowed down a little bit, but it hasn't been anything due to federal government downsizing. It has more to do with federal government and some of the regulations that they have. I think one project we were hoping to get a little bit of asbestos removal done, and we didn't do that because it was just quicker for us to get it done than trying to. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was one requirement that was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
But no, it's not that. So,
okay.
So no, we haven't seen that.
Okay. Mayor Bob Morgan with us today. We'll wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor today, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left to talk about some issues with Mayor Bob Morgan today. You have a council meeting coming up Monday night at 6, and we were talking about the contracts, the consulting, and then the work on the 2 residential projects there. I imagine those will be?
Those will be on the agenda, for approval. Normal things will be on the approval as far as, approving bills and claims. We'll go through those. One of the other things that people may or may not know, you see I call them telephone poles, but I guess with this day and age, maybe you call them communication poles or electrical poles. We own a number of those, and of course the attachments to those from like Spectrum and those type of things. Their amendment or their lease agreement is up, and it basically comes due about every 5 years. So we'll be updating that and increasing, 50 cents a pole or something, relatively insignificant. But again, those poles where they attach that are city owned, we will have a new agreement with them. It's still listed under Charter Communications, so it'll probably be changed to Spectrum, would be my guess. And I think it's kind of funny. If you look at all the poles we have in town, I think we own a little more than half of them, and I'm not sure exactly whether it's Windstream or somebody owns some of the other poles. So, there's kind of a mix of who owns the poles.
Now, you lease space on the poles. Do you also pay a lease on other poles you don't own, or how does that work? I can't remember if there's some trade-off there.
I'm sure there is some trade-off there, but I'm not sure what that trade-off is. It's just one of those little known facts that we got a lot of telephone poles around, and we own half of them, and somebody else owns the other half.
And the increases are what, just to account for just inflation?
Inflation and those type of things,
for a while. Is
Yep.
that a big revenue generator? Or I assume it's not.
It is not a big new revenue generator, no.
Kind of falls under the agreement you have with NDOT about we'll take care of this part of the highway and you take care of that part of the highway.
Yep.
And it does provide a little revenue, but it doesn't really cover the costs of.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now on the poles, there's not a lot of maintenance, but we do replace them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a replacement fund, and so there are some costs there.
There's still storms. There's still vehicle accidents now and then that knock one down occasionally or damage one, so you have to keep up on that.
And old age.
Yeah. We know about that.
We know about that, don't we?
I definitely know about that. Anything just windshield on the budget where you're coming up on you'll be putting together a new 2-year
We are.
budget?
We are. We're, right now we're at the stage where the department heads are putting the final touches on their projected expenses. As you know, we've talked about that. The capital projects, each department puts their capital projects out 8 years. So years, 1 and 2, which would be 25 to 26, 26 to 27 will be a little more in focus. And then I know that I've asked a list of items from the council members, which they got to me because that ended on Monday. And we'll see what that list looks like. Most importantly, the first thing we're going to look at is cover our expenses in the city. Okay. That's step number one.
Yeah.
And then step number 2 will be looking at, what we believe are the major projects that are going to be positive for the city.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, you were one of the guests and one of the attendees of the tree planting event out at the elementary school on Earth Day, which I thought was really well done. That was a neat thing. Involve all those kids. When you stood inside that gym and you watched all those kids there, that was an army of students there, and they all got to kind of have a direct role in doing something environmentally friendly at the school grounds there.
Yes, I think Ashley Hawks from Keep Beatrice Beautiful did a great job for organizing. I think Alex Eckhoff from Envision, they did a great job. We're always grateful for our partners of Black Hills Energy and Call 811 Before You Dig. And just the whole day was really good.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really neat when you think about Arbor Day. Like I said, that day was kind of created to take care of a barren ground, and you had that at the school. And so now they have 45 trees that they will be working diligently to keep alive.
It's be interesting in 10 years or so how it all looks around
Absolutely.
as trees continue to grow.
And I was amazed. I thought maybe we'd been Tree City for 35 years, but found out we've been a Tree City for 38 plus years. Wow. And so that's a long-standing tradition with a partnership with the Arbor Day Foundation.
Okay. Mayor, we'll see you Monday night.
Sounds good, 6 o'clock.